I tell you what, do I have a good one for you today, walking downtown Pensacola here in the historical district. But I just read Washington Post, New York Post, that there's going to be a 5% cap on real estate rents. You know, when you up the rent every month, they're wanting to cap it at 5%. The Biden administration is. Now, I've already said that everything is kind of on the brink, okay? We're like on that tipping point between commercial real estate, student loans, and credit cards. We are on the brink that anything could just set this place off, let me tell you. So this new policy is going to target all those landlords out there with 50 units or more, really like the big guys. And if you've ever owned real estate, or if you own real estate right now, you know that insurance has gone sky high, maintenance has gone sky high, legal's gone sky high. Literally everything to do with real estate costs more. We have no idea what's going to go on with the real estate agents because of the NAR problem. If there were to be a catastrophe, like a major financial catastrophe, it'll come from probably one of three places: commercial real estate, credit cards, or student loans. Maybe even car loans, but it's going to be in that genre. And those are the ones that are just sticking out to me right now. And all those guys out there that are due to refinance, and I've been saying this was a big one, there's like $1.2 trillion or $956 billion that have to be refinanced, okay, this year. And they're not going to cash flow anymore. Mark my words, next will be taxes going up, both in the form of property tax and income tax. We're going to pay for this, whatever they're calling it right now, whichever way you look at it. This inflation is killing families. It's killing businessmen. It's killing everybody. I mean, everything is going up. And it's just one more thing that everybody has to deal with. And that's what I want to talk about today. That we got a real problem out here. And now the government wants to stick its hand in the fight. And every time that happens, it never comes out good. For those of y'all that don't know about commercial real estate, when you want to increase the value of a property in commercial real estate, you got to up the cash flow, net operating income, and that ups the price of the property. Well, we have seen a massive amount of vacancies in commercial real estate. I'll check out that church right there. It's actually a really good place to get married. But here's the thing. When, like New York, I think they're seeing like 30% vacancies in most of their commercial real estate. Now, when you factor that in on refi, that you've been vacant for that amount of time, it makes the property not worth what you purchased for or what the debt service is on. And then you're set to refinance this bad boy. You're going to be upside down. And one of the biggest games in real estate is you buy a property and let's say the it's not fully rented, and you do some repairs on it, or just set the management up to a better standard that you can increase cash flow, you can increase rents, property is now worth more. Then the idea is to go and refinance it or sell it at that amount. It's not like in residential real estate where it's all about price per square foot. Well, when the government decides to come out and play funny business with the market like they always do, it never works out well. Remember during the cough epidemic, where they went in, they froze mortgages, and they did all these things to prop it up so people didn't lose their houses? Well, you can't mess with a market like that. When people are over leveraged, they have to fail. Well, I've said from the get that there are three things that will destroy this economy, which will destroy real estate. It'll destroy everything, basically everything. Student loans, commercial debt, commercial real estate, and credit cards. Well, let's factor in car loans too. That's a tough one. Politicians are already trying to say, hey, let's give first-time homebuyers $5,000 tax credit. Well, every time you create free money, every time you create money out of thin air, whether it's an incentive, it's a lower interest rate, like a no interest rate, like 0%, 1%, 2%, like we saw during the pandemic, you are elevating the prices of properties. You're making it easier to be attained. You're creating a lot more free money out there, which makes the price of property go up even higher. I mean, we've already seen real estate just keep going up in the single family side. Well, commercial has met its match. And this is something that is just enough to tip it right over the edge. Because if they can't refinance, these banks are going belly up. And there's a lot of that debt on the books. I'll say this. If the Biden administration actually gets this to pass, which I think they're just pandering to the voter base, so that's going to save the housing market, which it won't. They think that this is going to actually lower the cost of housing, which it won't. You're going to have investors in a really, really bad situation. One, new investors are not going to touch some of these properties because what's the point? I can't raise the rents. The entire point of buying a piece of real estate is to get a return. If I'm going to risk my liquidity, my money, and not get a return, then why do I want to do it? Okay? I don't want to do it. And that's the whole point of why the government puts these incentives towards real estate investors, these tax breaks that they're talking about, is to get people to do it. Well, they're not going to do it. And all these guys that are sitting on these big hedge funds, these huge portfolios, are going to be like, you know what? The investment's just not there anymore. They're either going to fire them off, they're either going to be creating a huge amount of inventory hitting the market, or they're just going to say, you know what? It's not worth it anymore. Okay, government, you create housing. You fix this problem. Because you think you can fix everything. There's things the government's not supposed to fix. They're not supposed to mess with the free market. And that's what they did last time. And they made housing explode. And this is just going to cost another set. We could wake up in the morning and JP Morgan be upside down insolvent. And what do you think that's going to happen to everybody? The jobs just gone. Like, market just crash. These are the things, these black swan events that just you don't see coming. And real estate is such a slow thing to get going. The wheels of real estate, the money in it, move very slowly, and they react very slowly. And I remember during the last administration, but when Biden was first coming in, he was like, you know what, we're going to take away these incentives, these tax incentives to own real estate. We're going to take away the deductions for maintenance and a lot of these other things. And, you don't need them, Mr. Investor. And I said to myself, what's the point of owning all these pieces of real estate? What's the point of putting up with these bad tenants and having to service all these, problems if I'm not going to get a return? And you know what I did? I sold them. I went the path of least resistance. And you're going to see a lot of people doing that. I want you guys to comment down below is what you think about this. What would you do? Do you think it's right or wrong that the administration can just step in and put a cap on things and just keep somebody that put their money to work, that put in a high risk environment? They have to deal with all these tenants and all these things to just say, you know what, you can't make money anymore. We're going to cap the amount of freedom you can have out of this. What do you think about that? I walked out of my house yesterday and my neighbor across the street was looking at his stairs. I was like, hey man, what are you doing looking at your stairs? He's like, well, the insurance company just drove by and sent me a letter and said that if I didn't put a handrail on my house that's been here since 1944, that they're going to drop me. Citizens, the government entity of insurance we have here in the state of Florida, is going to drop him because he doesn't have a handrail on his house. It's like they are just looking for things to either up our premium or just get us dropped entirely. And as you know, that if you have a mortgage, you have to have homeowners insurance. So basically it's like upping the premium on a fishbowl because you can't not have insurance unless you own your house outright. So for the most part, the people that have it taken out of escrow, every month with their mortgage, they have to have something or it'll be forced placed. And it's always forced placed for the minimum amount of protection and to the highest bidder because they're not trying to save you any money. So your insurance could go from $2,000 a year to $15,000 a year just because somebody drove past your house and said you needed a handrail. It's pretty nuts. I get it. We're all struggling. And I think my next video is going to be about how much we are struggling in this economy, how much things cost. And that's what I try to talk about here is these landlords have a lot of costs and they just keep going up. And it's going to keep going to the point where they're going to eventually break. But when you impose a new thing on them to where they can't get out of these problems by trying to pass that encumbrance along, you're just going to have a market that collapses. And that's where I think we are on this, that we could see commercial real estate just go through the floor overnight. I mean, within a 5-6 month period, that some of these large portfolios just go broke. And we see those properties come back on the market. You know the old saying, don't fight the Fed. Well, this is what it is. They've upped the interest rates to the point where these commercial properties are no longer viable. They're not cash flowing. The service and the maintenance and everything is made them where they just are not worth having anymore. And they can't be refinanced. And they'll just go belly up. And this is the kind of times we're getting in to where who knows what could happen. Wake up, black swan event. I mean, look at the deal that happened with former president. And now we've got two candidates. One that's been shot at, and another one that can't hardly articulate anything. They can't even speak. So this is wild. Comment down below what you think about this situation. See you guys in the next video.